What is up, everyone out there? How are you today? I'm Rick Brown coming to you live on Facebook and YouTube. And I have some bad news. I teased yesterday that my guest today was going to be Jesse Flood, and we were going to talk about some 80s music stuff. But unfortunately, Jesse is a pastor, and some pastorly duties have taken him away from us today. So you're stuck with just me today. So I hope that's okay. If it's not, then you can just quit watching. But please don't quit watching. I'm kidding. So we're going to kind of change tracks on you today. We're going to shelve that and hopefully do it next week. So really, that was just a tease for next week. So come back and Jesse will be with us, and we'll talk some 80s music stuff, and we'll have a good time. But today, it might be a little bit short because my daughter has a parade for her last day of school at Liberty Christian School in Anderson. So we will be leaving for that in a little bit, and we got to go get ready for that. But I still wanted to be with you today. I do have a top 10 list for you. We're going to do my top 10 favorite comedians of all time. And that's going to be maybe a little bit controversial list. I think some of the people that are left off might be a little bit surprising, and some of the people who are on there might be a little bit surprising. I don't know, but I'd like for you guys to participate in that with me. So if you guys can, jump on the comments, you can comment either on Facebook or on the YouTube Live, either way, and we can interact that way together. Please don't make me just sit here and talk for a while. That'll be so boring and no one will like it. No, seriously, anyway, we're going to have a good time today. It's going to be fun. It's been a little bit of an emotional day. Today was our last day of school at Liberty Christian, and as many of you know, I'm a teacher there, and so today was one of the days where our students could bring back, their Chromebooks or textbooks, also pick up yearbooks, things like that. So it was my chance to see students that I hadn't seen in a couple of months. Yesterday was another one of those days as well, and it was really good to be able to see some of those kids that I've been missing. I tell you what, I've said from the get-go, I don't want to talk a lot about, the coronavirus and all that, but I do want to mention this, that, everything else I do for work, almost, I do from home. The only exception is when I go out to see clients. For those of you who don't know, I design websites. I also do video production. I'm getting into some music production and things like that as well, but I don't have to go out for work very often. I do work a lot from the local coffee shop, but I can work pretty much wherever I'm at. So when this started, and we thought we were going to be doing e-learning for a couple of weeks and then get back in the classroom, and I thought, this is going to be right up my alley. I work from home anyway, and this is really, I'm going to be okay. And day 2, and this is even before we knew it was going to stretch to the rest of the school year, day 2 of this, I'm sitting at home preparing for class going, I hate this. I want my students. I want to see them face to face, and I want to spend time with them. I've missed them so much. So today was pretty emotional, seeing a lot of my students come in the school building and get to say hi to them and see how they're doing, and still can't, give them a hug or a high five or anything because we're still doing the social distancing thing. But at least I got to see them and look them in the eye and at least spend a little time with them. So that's been fun. It's been good today. But I'm still kind of coming, down from that emotional stuff a little bit. So I don't maybe quite have the energy I normally would have. I was hoping Jesse would be here because he would, but I totally understand. And like I said, we're going to have him on next week, and it'll be a good time. So it'll work out just fine. And so what we're going to do this week, as I said, we are going to talk about my top 10 favorite comedians. And again, this might be a little controversial, just who, like I said, who's on and who's not. And even going through the list, I've rearranged this list since I've been working on it like 6 times, and I'm still not sure I got the order right. I'm not even sure I have the right 10 on here, to be honest with you, because I keep thinking of people that I've left off. I keep thinking of people that should be on here, maybe people that shouldn't be. And oh, hi, Amanda. Hi, Megan. Glad you guys are here. So Hey, let's get into this. Top 10 favorite comedians. And I'm going to start off being a little controversial because honestly, I don't know how, if I'm talking about comedians, I don't know how I could leave them off the list. See, my Carlo said hi, honey. You haven't known me as long as Megan has, so you can't call me hi, honey. Oh, Penny Price. I got to put this one up on the. See, already, I haven't even started my list, and someone is mentioning someone that I know should be on the list, and they're not. I'm sorry, Penny, but that is a good choice. She said Red Skelton. Red Skelton is phenomenal, and honestly, I didn't even go there in my head. I should have. Definitely classic. Anyway, so my number 10, starting off, my dad and I listened to this guy a lot. We would tell his jokes over again, back and forth to each other. And there's just a soft place in my heart. And of course, he had a phenomenal TV show. I had no idea he was an awful human being, but apparently, all evidence points that he is. But I'm talking about the top 10 favorite comedians. Really, if the stuff that came out about him wouldn't have come out, he probably would have easily been number one. But I can't put him number one, but I can't leave him off the list either. So here goes. Number 10, Bill Cosby. So go ahead and shun me and hate me now. It's a sentimental pick I had to put on, like I guess, because my dad and I. Absolutely hilarious guy, but awful human being. So I got to take his name off while it's on there. But like I said, man, it was hard not to put him on, so I had to. So let's just skip right past that. Let's go to number 9. Number 9, Rodney Dangerfield. Rodney Dangerfield cracks me up. I just love his whole stick, his whole, about not getting respect. It's hilarious. I really like him in Caddyshack. And I tried real hard to separate in this list, like stand-up comedy versus show comedy. But when I think of Rodney Dangerfield, that's the first thing that comes to my mind is Caddyshack, which is a great movie, and I need to watch it again. And he's just so funny. So that's my pick for number 9. Penny Price said Cosby, great comedian, morally corrupt, but still great comedian. Agreed. That was kind of where I was coming from. And again, if the personal stuff, if that wasn't true, he would have been much higher on the list, probably number 1. But I couldn't put him number 1 in a good conscience. But I also couldn't leave him off because of, again, kind of sentimentality with how much my dad and I listened to him. I had like 3 cassette tapes of Bill Cosby stuff. I'm going back to Cosby, even though I said I was going to skip past. And I had 2 or 3 record albums. And my dad and I would, every time we got together, we would listen to him. We listened to him in the car, whatever. It was great. All right. Skipping on past, we did number 9, Rodney Dangerfield. Let's go number 8. Number 8, Lewis Black. This is one I think that people might think is a weird choice for a top 10 comedians, but I don't know if you guys know Lewis Black or watch him. His delivery just cracks me up. And he's got this angry thing, and the way he tells stories, I have to watch myself not trying to do impersonations of these people because I can't do impersonations. But he does this he just has this angry delivery, and he points his fingers, and he just floors me. And there's a album of his I had, and I can't think of the name of it, and I can't find it anywhere. But it also was on like a Comedy Central special. And I know the one thing I remember he talks about, that he overheard this conversation, and this girl said, "And I would have finished college if it hadn't been for that horse." And he's sitting there thinking about how, what? I don't even understand what that means. And so he says, I turn around to ask about it and they're gone. And now I just have to wonder for the rest of my life, what did that horse have to do with her finishing college? It's fantastic. But anyway, I love his delivery. I like the way he tells stories. That's one that I think a lot of people probably wouldn't put in a top 10 favorite comics. But he's one of my favorite comics. Sometimes he's a little weird, but anyway, I think it's pretty good. Have you guys heard of Louis Black? I mean, I know he was on another show on Comedy Central, and I can't remember what it was. I don't watch a lot of Comedy Central, but I thought it was. Anyway, he's pretty good. So I'm gonna move on now. Let's move on to number 7 is Stephen Wright. Going back a ways, this is another person who I like mostly because of their delivery. For those of you who don't know Stephen Wright, you've probably heard stuff and didn't realize it was him, maybe, especially younger people out there. He delivers one-liners in a very, very monotone voice. And I think one of his favorite lines is, I put a humidifier and a dehumidifier in a room and I let them fight it out. And he just deadpans it. And he just says these lines that are just real, like I said, like on a monotone type delivery, real. I don't know. He's very unique. I'm looking up some of his one-liners now so I can think of them. I wrote, and just reading them doesn't do justice because you have to hear him say it. I wrote a song, but I can't read music, so I don't know what it is. Every once in a while, I'll be listening to the radio and say, "Hey, I think I might have written that." I busted a mirror. I got 7 years bad luck. My lawyer thinks he can get me 5. For my birth, that's the dehumidifier one I said. Hermits have no peer pressure. That was a good one. Yeah, he's very dry. Penny Price just said he's very dry. That's a good way to describe him. I was trying to think of the word to use to describe him, and that's it. Just very dry. Just matter of fact. He just cracks me up. If you haven't heard Stephen Wright, there's videos all over like YouTube and stuff. Search for him and find him, and he just cracks me up. He's a hilarious dude. So let's go. So you have a 7, Richard Wright, or Stephen Wright, Richard Wright. Oh my goodness. Number 6 is Steve Martin. And this is someone, again, if I was considering his acting work as well, he would be higher on the list. Steve Martin is absolutely hilarious. For his stand-up, though, you have to have the right humor for it. Very goofy, very silly. Not very much of it is. It's not your highbrow like what's the word I'm looking for? It's not. You have to think a lot. It's goofy. He always wore a arrow, like I think it looked like he had an arrow through his head, and he played a banjo. And some of his songs are hilarious. One of my favorites is when he was on Saturday Night Live. He did King Tut, which was fantastic. He actually had that as a record as well. Mike Harlow. Mike Harlow, mind if I smoke? No, you mind if I fart? That's hilarious. But Steve Martin has always been one of my favorites. And again, this was tough to not put him higher because I love him in movies. The Jerk he's in is one of my favorite movies. He has several other movies that are really good that I really enjoyed. So again, if I considered his acting work as well, I'd have moved him up higher on the list. But going based on just his stand-up, I put him here at what did I put? Okay, number 6. See, this is one I moved around a lot. I had him a little higher, and then I had him a little lower, and then I had him a little higher again, and then he finally settled in at number 6. And I'm going to let Penny Price announce my number 5 pick because she said it already in the comments. Robin Williams is my number 5, top 10 comedian of all time. I really like Robin Williams, and he is again, this is someone, if I considered his acting work, he might even be higher on the list. But he has so much energy and is just so funny and so quick to just come up with things on the fly. I love Robin Williams. I like him as an actor, but I even like him more as a comedian. If you watch some of his older stuff, the energy is hilarious. One of my favorite bits of his, he did Elmer Fudd singing "Fire" by Bruce Springsteen, which is hilarious. I'm not going to try to do it because I would do it awful. But it's it's hilarious. You have to search for that. Robin Williams doing Elmer Fudd singing "Fire" by Bruce Springsteen. It was Penny Price said, multifaceted and his impersonations added to the hilarity. That's true. And Jeremiah, well, just hang on a second, Jeremiah. I'm going to get there. I'm only at number 5. I'll let him announce when I get there. But anyway, Robin Williams hilarious. And again, if I consider his acting, he probably goes up higher on the list. He just had so many great characters. Even his serious acting, he's fantastic. Of course, he's hilarious in Good Morning Vietnam. I watched him as a kid on Mork and Mindy. Those of you younger people might not know Mork and Mindy. That's a show that I don't understand why you can't find anywhere. You know, a lot of these older shows you can find on Netflix or Hulu or one of the other streaming services, and I don't know why you can't find them on or find Mork and Mindy on those. It is a fantastic show, and Robin Williams is just hilarious on it. And from what I understand, from what I've read, a lot of that show is him just like doing improv, just getting a topic and just going off, which is what he did in his stand-up a lot as well. Also, Robin Williams, if you see him on like talk shows and things like that, you can tell the hosts are just like, oh my gosh, what am I getting into? Because he just goes off. It's great. So that was number 5, Robin Williams. Now we're getting into the top 4. Top 4, man, this was tough to put them in order. I switched this order around as I was typing these in to put the captions on. I kept switching the order on these. Matter of fact, they're out of order on my screen right now because I kept changing them so much. And I don't know. Penny Price. I gotta put this comment up. Penny said because Ork doesn't have Netflix. That's right. Or maybe Orson doesn't allow it. Maybe that's it. Anyway, and I know some people, how can you have this person higher than that person? How can you have that person higher than this person? And I really don't know. This is just where they settled on today. And if you ask me 5 minutes after I end this live stream, I'm probably going to say, oh, I should have put on so-and-so. Or so-and-so really should have been number 2 or whatever. But anyway, number 4 is George Carlin. And this one was hard to know where to put him because this is the opposite of what I said about Steve Martin. George Carlin had a very intellectual comedy to him and a very biting social satire kind of things. And honestly, the reason why he's probably number 4 and not higher is because some of what he says I don't agree with, and that kind of diminishes him a little bit in my mind. But absolutely hilarious guy. Makes some really good social commentary sometimes. Sometimes, again, like I said, not what I agree with. And this is probably not good for my audience, for who's going to be watching this, but his rant on the 7 words you can't say on TV is absolutely hilarious. Just don't watch it with kids around or listen to it. Anyway, he is funny. If I would add, again, if I would add, I liked him in the Bill and Ted movies. I love those movies. I know they're goofy, and a lot of people are like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. You watch that? Yes, I love that movie. It's hilarious. Oh, we got some comments here. Penny says, yes, I learned the 7 words from his album. Yeah, me too. I was pretty young when I heard that the first time. But yeah, and I still say something that I heard from him to this day about, he had this rant about a hot water heater. Why do you got to heat hot water? And I unfortunately taught that to Martina, and I still catch myself. Matter of fact, I'm about to install something on our water heater either later today or tomorrow. And I said, when I said, oh, yeah, can you just install this on our hot water heater? She goes, hot water heater? Why do you got to heat hot water? I was like, oh, great. I wish I would have never taught you that. But anyway, and then Mike Harlow said, loved his comparison of football and baseball. Yeah, it was really good. And I think he has a really good one about golf, too. I think that's him who has the really good thing about golf. I don't remember. Anyway, if you guys know that or remember it, let me know. Or anyone who's watching after this, if you watch it or know what I'm talking about, let me know. Number 3, this one is one that people might think I'm rating too high, but I actually considered putting him even higher because he is one of my absolute favorite comedians, and I like, now that I'm older, he's really clean for the most part, and what I talked about me and my dad with Bill Cosby, me and my daughter Martina have the same kind of relationship with this comedian, and that's Jim Gaffigan. We, like anything he puts out, Martina and I immediately have to watch together or listen to in the car or whatever, and we absolutely just crack up. And I really, again, for a sentimental favorite, wanted to put him first because he just cracks me up. But when I really think about the whole body of work and everything, I had to put him third. And honestly, going through the list right now, I kind of regret not putting him higher. But and the other thing that I like about him is he a lot of his jokes are about food and being fat, and I can relate to both of those things very much. He also had a show briefly on I think it was on TBS. I don't know, but we watched it. Martina and I watched it together, and it was really, really funny. It was kind of about his life, but it was really good. But I just love his specials. I love how one of my favorite things that he does is when he like talks like he's one of his audience members. Like, is this guy just gonna talk about food all the time? No wonder he's fat. And it just cracks me up. So Jim Gaffigan's number 3 on my list anyway. Do you guys think I put him too high? Not high enough? What do you guys think? Penny's got something about, this is going back to George Carlin. I know where we can build housing for the homeless, golf courses. Yeah. I knew he had something about golf. I just couldn't remember what it was. But anyway, back to Jim Gaffigan. What do you guys think? Is that too high? Not high enough? Should he even be on the list at all? And I know it's kind of a personal favorite. This is my list. Dang it. No. Seriously. I want to, do you guys know who Jim Gaffigan is? I did not know that. Mike Harlow coming in with the trivia. He was on the Purdue football team for your walk-on. I had no idea. I did know he was from Indiana. Did not know he was on the Purdue football team. Do you know what position he played? I'm gonna type that too. And Jill says not high enough for do you mean me or Jim Gaffigan? No, I'm kidding. I couldn't resist that. The bench. Jeremiah said the bench. And Mike Harlow says he had to be, he's not small. Maybe a lineman. Well, I don't know if he's big enough to be a lineman. He's kind of short too, I think. Maybe he's I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe he did just set the bench. I don't know. He did. I guess he had to be something. Anyways, number 3, like I said, Jim Gaffigan. So now we get to top 2, and again, this was so hard to put these in order. Number 2, I'm going to Well, no, people said that. Number 2, Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy just cracks me up. And this, I probably considered Saturday Night Live a little too much when I moved him to number 2. But and it's, again, don't watch this with kids around, or if you don't like language. But Eddie Murphy Delirious, I watched that from the time it came out for a long time, and it just cracks me up every time. He had another one that came out, Eddie Murphy Raw, that I didn't think was that good. I didn't think it was near as funny as the first one. But his stand-up is hilarious. He was hilarious on Saturday Night Live. Of course, he had some great movies. Again, I tried not to consider that for this list, but he did. Beverly Hills Cop is a fantastic movie, hilarious movie. He also had some other ones that a whole string of movies that came out around that time. But his Saturday Night Live work is phenomenal. One of my favorite videos that I had was the best of Eddie Murphy on Saturday Night Live. I used to own it on VHS, and it has some great bits. Michael Brumback says, Goonie Goo Goo. That's the first thing I always think of when I think of Eddie Murphy Delirious. Goonie Goo Goo. Do you know what she said, Gus? She said Goonie Goo Goo. Oh, my goodness. Oh, absolutely hilarious. And Penny Price said Eddie Murphy, absolutely, even in his films, his delivery of lines cracks me up. Yeah, he's hilarious. He's even hilarious in like some of the like later like movies for kids that he did. There's a couple that are kind of too cheesy, but some of those are really good. So he's number 2, at least to me. Again, though, the top 4 really could have been in almost any order. So we're going to go to number 1. My number 1 pick is Richard Pryor. Just hilarious. And again, and I was introduced to Richard Pryor when I was young as an actor. One of my favorite movies that he was in is called The Toy. It's not one of his big blockbusters, at least I don't think. But it's Richard Pryor and Jackie Gleason, and I don't know the kid's name, but the kid was in a bunch of movies around that same time. Actually, I gotta look that up. And then I don't know what happened to the kid after that. Actually, I think the kid was in A Christmas Story too. I'm gonna pull up IMDb if I can find that out, because now I'm curious. But The Toy is hilarious. Jeremiah Mullet says 11:30. Remember that? I don't know what that is. I don't know what 11:30 means. Mike Rose, what about Seinfeld? I had Seinfeld on the list, and then I pulled him off, and then I put him back on, and then I pulled him off. And I don't know. I like him, but who do I take off the list to put him on? That's what I don't know. Hey, Price. Pryor got fired up. Bad joke. Michael Brumback says solid number 1. Thank you. Pryor got fired up. I got to go back to that. That was bad. I have a sort of story about this. Let me make sure my mom's not watching this, because I'm going to tell a story on her. Oh, it doesn't tell me who's on. Sorry, Mom, I'm telling the story. One of my first movies I remember going to see was JoJo Dancer, Your Life is Calling. And it's Richard Pryor, and it's the story of his life. And I was young, and I don't know if my mom thought I was just going to like go to sleep when I got there to the theater, or if she thought it was just going to be funny because it was Richard Pryor, but it's not funny at all. I mean, it's a very tragic story of his life, and it goes through where he set himself on fire. And man, that movie like scarred me. It's like, what is going on here? It was crazy. Okay. I found Scott Schwartz. That's his name. Yes, Scotty Schwartz. Scott Schwartz is the kid in The Toy. He was also, ironically, in A Christmas Story. Two of Ralphie's friends, one was named Schwartz, and Scott Schwartz did not play Schwartz. He played the other kid, which I can't think of his name now, even though it's one of my favorite movies. Um, but yeah, Scott Schwartz is the kid in the movie, and he's like, this is back to the toy. I'm sorry, my ADHD. Um, but in the movie, uh, Scott Schwartz plays a kid who's rich, and his dad owns like this huge toy store. And his dad's Jackie Gleason, and his dad takes him to his toy store and tells him he can pick out anything he wants to have for Christmas. And Richard Pryor worked at his store and was trying to set up one of the toys, and it was like he kept messing up, and it was funny. Well, the kid was watching him, and he said, "Well, Dad, I want him." And well, is that so you can't have him? He's a person. You can't have a person. And then he throws a fit, and he's a rich kid, so he gets what he wants. So Jackie Gleason goes up to Richard Pryor and is like, "Hey, I want to pay you to basically come be my kid's toy." And anyway, hilarity ensues, and it's a really, really good movie. The interesting thing about Richard Pryor that I think go into, Michael Brumback, Wonder Wheel. That's exactly what I'm talking about. The Wonder Wheel. So you've seen that movie. I need to watch that movie again. I haven't seen it in a long time. But the thing that about Richard Pryor that I always thought was really interesting was, he's pretty raunchy in his comedy. I mean, his comedy is laced with profanity, lots of bad language, and not good subject matter a lot of the times. But almost all of his movies have like a moral to them, and some of the stuff he did, like when he would guest host on Saturday Night Live, had a moral to them. That really interested me a lot. I think he's a very complex person. Another one of my favorite movies he's in. I started off saying this. I'm not going to consider their acting, and it's just stand up, and I'm talking almost all about their acting. But anyway, it's my list. I can do what I want. One of my other favorite movies of him that I don't hear talked about a lot is Brewster's Millions, which is a really good movie where he inherits so many millions of dollars, but he has to spend it within so many days and have nothing left. And then if he does, he will inherit a whole bunch more money. And it's a really good movie. It's got Richard Pryor. I think John Candy's in it, maybe, if I remember right. Anyways, that's a really good movie if you haven't seen that one. So if you're looking for older movies to watch, those are two I recommend: The Toy and Brewster's Millions. Both Richard Pryor, both really good movies, and appropriate for family watching. Both of those are really good movies without like there's not really much language or sex or drugs or anything like that. Paul Miller comes up. John Candy's in it, correct? Thank you. My mind wasn't attaching that very well, but I remember about that movie, Brewster's Millions. He decides to run for office. Moving, that's another good one. Paul Miller coming up with Moving. That's a good one. He had so many good movies, and of course, there's the movies he did with Gene Wilder that were good too. Silver Streak. Was it See No Evil, Hear No Evil, or something like that? That one was hilarious. Richard Pryor was blind and Gene Wilder was deaf, if I remember right. And that was pretty funny. Anyway, so Richard Pryor's my number one on my list. I don't know if you agree or disagree. Silver Streak. That's the other Gene Wilder movie I was trying to think of that they were in together. They were such a good pair. They did such a great job. Maybe that's another list I should do sometime, is my favorite like pairs in movies, like Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor. They would be pretty high on that list, I'm sure. Anyway, what do you guys think about my top 10 list? Was it good? Who would you have on it that I didn't have on it? Who was too high? Who was too low? Any thoughts on that? Anyway, you can leave it in the comments, or I guess that's all you can do is leave it in the comments. It's not like it's a call-in show or anything. Duh, Rick. Anyway, that's my top 10 list of comedians. So what's up with you guys? Anything new? And I don't know if you were here at the beginning, Mike, but I did intend on doing an 80s music thing today. I teased that, but the guest I was going to have on couldn't be on, and I really want him on because what started that conversation, we were having a conversation about music, not even talking about this, and he was talking about some of his favorite bands, and I was talking about mine, and neither one of us agreed, and we both were very passionate about why their bands weren't good, or he was telling me why mine wasn't good, and which you probably already know, one of my top bands, and he was telling me why his was, and I was telling him why anyway. But I said, you've got to come on my live stream, and we've got to talk about this. And you were the first person that I thought, he'd really like this. If we had this conversation, he'd probably want to jump on and join us. Anyway, Penny Price says Carol Burnett and Tim Conway. I did not even consider either one of them, and those would be fantastic choices. I do think of them more from the show, the Carol Burnett show, though. But two of my favorite TV moments of all time come from the Carol Burnett show, and one is one that wasn't actually on the show, but it was an outtake. If you haven't seen the Elephant Story, it is the funniest thing I think I've ever seen. But it's not. It's from I think it's from a rehearsal they were finishing, if I remember the story right. And Tim Conway starts telling the story about these elephants, and they can't even get to the scene because they're laughing so hard. And oh my goodness, it's funny. If you haven't seen that, you have to go to YouTube right now and search for Tim Conway and the Elephant Story. And oh my gosh, you will laugh so hard. It is hilarious. And then the other one is where Tim Conway's a dentist, and that one was on the show, and it just cracks me up. Tim Conway's so funny. Physical acting and the way he just take something and run with it is just hilarious. Oh yeah, with Harvey too, Penny. Yeah, she said funniest show on TV ever. It was hilarious. I watched that. I have fond memories of being at my great grandmother's house, who I spent a lot of time with as a kid, and we would watch the Carol Burnett show, and they had these little Coke bottles that were like 6 or 8 ounces, I don't know, but they were pretty small. We always bought those little Coke bottles, and we would get Ritz crackers and put and like cut up cheese and put on them. That was, for some reason, what we ate when we watched that show. I don't know what the connection was, but it was like, well, Carol Burnett show's coming on. Let's go get our Cokes and our Ritz crackers. But yeah, I have fond memories of that show like that. And Carol Burnett's hilarious. I haven't really seen any of her stand-up, though. I wonder if that's something I can find, like on YouTube or something. But I do think she's really, really funny. And I always liked in the show where she would come out and like talk with the audience. That was really good. And then, if you do stuff like that, you got to kind of come up with stuff on the spot. And I was always amazed by people who could do that. Because I'm the type of person where someone would say something, and then I'd be like, and then as I'm walking off the stage, I go, oh, I should have said blah, blah, blah. So I would think about it afterwards. But anyway, I'm gonna cut this short for now. I got to go get ready for the senior parade. We're going to go decorate or make some signs and stuff like that to get ready for the parade. If you aren't doing anything tonight and you live in the Anderson, Indiana area, the seniors from Liberty Christian will be parading from our Columbus building, which is on near the corner of 23rd and Columbus. We'll be heading downtown, going through downtown, and then heading over 8th Street and heading towards our Hillcrest campus. I know some people are going to the fire station and parking there. There's a few other places they're parking along the way. So if you're not doing anything and you want to come celebrate our seniors with us, we'd love to have you out there. That'd be awesome. Anyway, Martina will be in it, and she's driving with some of her friends, and then I'm I'll be out there cheering them on, and also my other seniors I have for students. So anyway, it would be a good time. But thank you guys for joining us. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you guys chatting with me while I'm doing this. That makes it a lot better. Thank you for your suggestions for your favorite comedians and for telling me who you'd put where. And next week, should have Jesse Flood on. He's planning on being here next week, and then we're gonna talk about 80s music. Somehow we couldn't decide if we wanted to do like the top bands or the top singers. Doing the top drummers was mentioned because all three of us that were going to be on the show all play drums. So we talked about doing drummers. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to do it, but it's going to be related to 80s music somehow. So hopefully we will see you back next week, 3 o'clock. Join us. This has been Rick Brown Live. And hey, whatever you do, remember, let love win. It's good seeing you guys.